back to another episode of the Blockbuster Brothers. Today we are talking about one of Netflix's new releases, The Diamond Heist, which is a documentary series. But Steven, you get a chance to check it out?
Yes, I did. And Brian, this is going to be a throwback for you. I've been waiting to throw in this surprise because you're going to go, oh, hey, you're going to react to some kind. You know what this show is a little bit? The way it's constructed? A little bit Waltz with Bashir-esque.
Whoa, throwback.
Yes. So this was executive produced by Guy Ritchie, which obviously right away you're like, okay, cool. But the way that Netflix did this, I thought was very unique in the sense that it was a real story that they reenacted, and even the people that they interviewed felt cinematic. So instead of cutting from reenactment to some guy sitting in his kitchen having coffee telling you about what happened, it was cutting from this reenactment, which felt very real and very movie-esque, to a cinematic, the guy that's telling you, the real guy that was a part of this, that was telling you what's going on, that too felt very movie-like. So the construction of it was really unique, and I think this is a big win for Netflix because it just was really interesting, and I thought it ripped. I thought it's a win. I liked it. I did find out a spoiler. Should I say that now, Brian, or no?
Yeah, man. I we discussed this, guys, and I think anybody watching now is like, if you watch this at the beginning, I think it's good to let people know if we're about to spoil it. Yeah.
All right.
Spoil it.
Here's
ruin their day, Steven.
Yeah.
Leave now.
If you're halfway through the show, you might be like, oh gosh darn it. But I found out that, this whole I believe it's a three-part documentary TV series is about robbing this diamond, right? Obtaining this diamond. Well, turns out they were successful in doing so, but the real diamond was never there from the beginning.
Wow.
So that's a huge kind of and I'm probably not going to watch episode 2. I shouldn't have looked it up, but I did. But still very cool. Still very cool.
Well, folks, there's no reason to watch it now.
Yeah, no reason to watch it anymore. Sorry.
Well, I guess it's.
But it was neat, and just one thing I thought was interesting was the guy that led this operation. His father, to put it lightly, was a scumbag. He's like criminal underworld, hated police, crime. And so it's no surprise that his son turned to the same kind of felonious criminal activity, right? But, and where the cycle ends, and I thought is a very human thing, he kept his daughter and wife in the dark completely because he didn't want the same life that he had for his daughter. So I thought that was a very interesting kind of human psyche thing where you go, yeah, okay, it's exciting, crime, you make a lot of money, but living in a world where you're always fearful of being caught and doing crimes and putting your family in danger, I just found that little note pretty interesting.
Well, it puts an honest depiction on the reason why people like villains, and I think what makes good villains is that at the end of the day, these are all people, and people do things for a reason. As much as we want to say people don't do things for a reason, and I think there are of course exceptions where people have certain things going on where they're not really cognitively making decisions and doing things for rational reasons, but there's justifications, and people are put into corners, and not necessarily that they make right decisions, but when people are put under pressure, they do things. They do things, crazy things, because they got nothing to lose. When people don't have anything, they're willing to do a lot. And I think it's something I've always said and always will feel, is that there's no better author than life itself. Nobody tells a better story. So leaning into that is always good. I think one thing I do wish is, I kind of wishing things weren't as sharp anymore. The cameras, I know it's a documentary, so it's a little clean and sharp. I just wish things would get darkened up a little bit lighting wise, and a little bit more grain and roughened up an image. I don't know. It's just from the instant, it just like looks like a reality show to me. Just these cameras. It was I don't know. I would have like darkened things up a little bit, but that's such a tiny gripe to have, and it's a documentary, so maybe that's not the place for that type of lighting or
No,
cinematography.
I get it. I get it. I think that's a valid thing. But what really, in summary, I think it's really well done. It's very cool and it's very unique because it's this real story, 100% real story that was made to look like it was a Guy Ritchie film. Like
Yeah,
it looks fake. Like it looks like you're watching a movie that was completely fictionalized, but in actuality, the entire thing was true. So it was this very interesting hybrid that I almost, other than this Waltz with Bashir comparison, I don't know if I've ever seen that. So
I've seen it before once with this with a documentary, and it was played by I'm trying to remember. It's the cast. It's like that guy from American Horror Story season 1, and he plays they reenact. They do the interviews, and it was actually probably the best like depiction of like a reenactment of a documentary, where it felt like they almost could have cut out the interview. So I have seen this once before, and I'm surprised more people haven't done it. But I'll try to, if anyone can remember that name, put in the comments. But if anybody else has watched this series, and let us know what you think. As always, we appreciate the like, a comment, a subscribe, but we appreciate you nonetheless. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on another episode of the Blockbuster Brothers.